What's up, y'all? It's Whiskey Joe. Cycle 11 at CRAS is finished with only one cycle left to go. Here's what we did over the last 3 weeks. Week 1 Monday, we were semi-introduced to the AWS 948 console. I say semi-introduced because we only watched an hour-long video about the console. We weren't actually using it just yet, but we got a general overview of the board and its features. We took a look at the patch bay and the master section and what this channel strip has to offer in comparison to other consoles. What's really cool is that we have the ability to book these rooms right away without having to pass a proficiency first, so that's nice. Tuesday, we dove into the signal flow of the console and got some hands-on time with it, routing the signal different ways and learning how to patch in outboard gear to this console. Tuesday night, I stuck around in Studio D to prep for our Swim on Wednesday. We got the Pro Tools session prepped and made sure our mixer was set up and ready to go to help avoid as many problems as possible for when the artist comes in. And then Wednesday morning was our Swim. We were tracking drums in Studio D using roughly 12 to 14 mics, and we had to be completely set up in under 90 minutes with everything working properly to swim. And we did. We definitely could have been a bit faster and had more hustle setting up, but we'll have another one in week 2, so we'll apply those lessons learned to the next one. For this session, I was the Pro Tools op. The rest of my team set up the mics, the mixer, headphones, and ran cables. So I was chilling during setup, but once we got rolling, the pressure was on me to keep up with the producer's demands while we were recording. And then I was invited from 2 to 6 to sit in with a CRAS grad that came by, Mr. Rob Venable, who showed us his workflow in Pro Tools and shared some of his sauce with us. He's a super cool guy and he has a ton of credits. I'll put a picture here for reference, but it's a crazy list. Thursday, we got an introduction to a software called QLab. It's used to design and control sound, video, lighting, and show control cues for live events, theater, and performance. We'll be using this software paired with an M32 console to control the sound effects and lighting for a theater performance we had to do in week 2. Friday morning at 11:40, I went in to take the broadcast proficiency. In my last video, I said I was probably going to opt out, but one night after class, I went through the practice sheet with a classmate and it was actually easier than I thought, so I was convinced just to take it at that point. The more you can add to your resume, the better, right? So I passed that and now I have a broadcast badge added to my belt. We also had to go in early for another grad panel featuring Brett Fulliard, a 2021 graduate currently working for Claire and has toured the world with artists including Megadeth, Imagine Dragons, Sum 41, and many others, and is currently flying the PA system for Styx. We also had Thomas Warren, who is a 2012 grad and now a very accomplished recording and mixing engineer / producer, fronting multi-platinum and Grammy-nominated albums by Kendrick Lamar, Sam Smith, Rihanna, Coldplay, and also mentioned that he just hit something like 38 billion streams on the songs he's got credits on, which is absolutely insane. And then finally, Jay Brannon, a 2019 grad who interned at Bang Zoom, and afterwards he was hired as an assistant engineer / editor. He's been recording and editing shows like The Witcher and Demon Slayer, which I've heard is a pretty big thing in the anime world. Huge thank you to them for their time and sharing their knowledge about the industry with us. For class, we were in Studio F learning about Pro Tools integration with the AWS console. It is pretty cool how much control you have over the DAW just by using the console. You have transport control, different focus and VPOP modes, and you can even use the console strictly as a control surface. And if I haven't mentioned it already, Studios F and G are only available to 11th and 12th cycle students, so it's a lot easier to get in for bookings than it is for the other studios, which are available to many more students. Week 2 Monday was a big plugin day. Studios F and G are equipped with a bunch of high-end plugins we have access to, so we spent some time going through a good portion of them. Some of what we went through include the Trident A-Range EQ, the Pultec EQ, different compressors like the LA2A and its variants, all sorts of stuff, and these plugins aren't cheap, so if you're in the program, be sure to use them while you're here. Tuesday, we had kind of a deeper discussion about the philosophy of mixing, the pros and cons to mixing from home versus in a professional studio. We also went down a rabbit hole on how AI might shape the audio world down the line and how it's affecting the industry now. Long story short, I'm not too worried about AI taking my job in the next 5 years personally, but I think it's something to grow with rather than ignore, or you will get left in the dust when this stuff becomes more integrated into our daily workflow. And after our discussion, we got more hands-on time with the AWS console, learning how to work the foldback systems and print stems along with overdubbing. Wednesday was our second and final Swim. It was pretty similar to week 1, tracking drums in Studio D, but with a few changes. This time we were to use a mixer instead of our Volt interface to monitor the artist's headphone mix, and we were also recording in stereo but monitoring the mix in surround sound. So we had to do a bit more prep to make sure our Pro Tools session was set up correctly. We spent some time the night before getting our prep work done, but there was one issue with the control room headphone mix we couldn't figure out how to solve that we did find somewhat of a solution for, but it wasn't the solution that worked for the producer, and we almost sunk because of it. Panic mode set in, but we took a moment to think and eventually got it to work, so we swam again. There is so much to learn from these Swim exercises, even though they are a bit scary and very nerve-wracking. I think without having any real-world experience in a high-profile studio like this is the best way to get your reps in and really try to do well. So when you are in this kind of situation, you are more prepared to think on the spot and engineer a solution, because that's what you're hired to do. Wednesday night, we had our tech rehearsal for our upcoming theater performance where we tested all our sound cues and backdrops, and I went over my lines with another classmate since I was one of the actors. It's fairly low pressure since our grade isn't on the performance itself, but the pre-production and if what we put together made sense for what our act was. Thursday was our performance day. We had an hour to prep, but since there were only 2 groups to perform, we got on a bit early, did our performance, then reviewed for the Live Sound 200 final we'll be taking in week 3, and that was really it for the day. Friday was an extremely chill class. We got set up on Dante Controller and used Dante Virtual Sound Card to record a split of the signal coming from Live Sound, where 10th Cycle had their band clinic and routed that signal into our DAW of choice, Pro Tools for the win, and recorded the audio from the band remotely. Our assignment from here was just to mix one of the songs that we recorded. All went pretty smoothly, and once the band was done playing, we packed up and left for the day. Sunday, a handful of students, including myself and a few instructors, got to meet with Drew Thornton at the Arizona Financial Theater to get an inside look at what it's like to be the front of house engineer for top artists like Teddy Swims, who he's with right now, Billie Eilish, and lots more. He gave us a really good insight on his workflow and some background on how he got to where he is today. A lot of it is about drive and the tenacity to keep moving even if you have to start over again at points in your career. Drew is such a stand-up guy. It was an absolute pleasure to have met him. Week 3, Monday and Tuesday, we started diving into the world of mastering. We went over what mastering is, the different software, plugins such as Ozone, the gear involved, and even specific DAWs that are commonly used to master with. Mastering has always been a bit of a foreign topic for me and isn't something I think I'll immediately dive into, just because I want to get better at mixing first. And I think that's typically the flow from what I've heard, that you get good at mixing first, then get into mastering, and learning how to master in turn makes you become a better mixer since you learn what the mastering engineer needs from the mix. Wednesday, we had a mixing session that was slightly different from other mix sessions we've done in the past. Instead of spending the class time mixing a song in groups, there were a set of steps we were asked to complete based on the instructor's wants, essentially getting the session prepped for the mix engineer. So we went up in pairs to complete as many steps as we could and then studied for our finals coming up on Friday. Thursday, we had a tracking session in Studio F, tracking drums, bass, and keys. This time around, we had more specified roles such as Pro Tools op, board operator, and support crew, which were out setting up the live room with mics and cables. It's pretty cool to see how much we've grown from our tracking sessions in earlier cycles. We are a lot faster at getting mics placed and cables ran. It's a cool feeling. Then Friday, we had our finals. We had both the LS200 and MP200 finals back to back, 50 questions each. The live sound wasn't as bad since it was multiple choice, but the music production was kind of tough. It was pretty much all fill in the blank, but it's all over now, and we're headed into our last cycle here at CRAS. It's so surreal to be at this point, and it's very bittersweet. 3 more weeks until I'm off to Cali. But that's it for cycle 11. Next cycle, from what I heard, is a breeze as we finish out our time here on campus. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you at the end of cycle 12.